Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks for joining us here today. Who's excited and ready to work on building their business innovatively? Woohoo! All right, let's get started here. Today we are going to be coming from this book, Blue Ocean Strategies. Hey, Irene from Colorado Springs, thanks for joining us. Hope everybody had a chance to review their book. We'll be in chapter 6 today of Blue Ocean Strategies, going over the strategic sequence and the pricing and how important is that. Of course, pricing is everything, but it means nothing if you don't have a customer or if you have too few customers to make your business profitable. So today we'll be looking at a few companies, and we don't have a second book to view today because there is so much information packed in. It might be a little mind-boggling, as a matter of fact, what we're going to go over today. So we're just going to take our time, go through all of the important parts of this chapter. We have some diagrams for you and just a lot of thinking. Who's ready to put your thinking cap on, take off your hat of busy doing and tasks and running around, and just start thinking about your business. Start dreaming about what it could be, how you can serve customers differently and better, and not just competing with the same old brokerages over and over again, the same companies, and those who might be taking your market share. How can you get outside of that box of business, that same red ocean market that everybody else is competing in? So welcome everybody. Please check in. Let us know where you're joining us from so we can say hello. All right, there's our slide presentation. We're ready to dive in. Today is the 6th of 8 sessions about real estate brokerages that innovate, differentiate, and capture unique market share. And we're talking about being the boss. B.O.S.S stands for Blue Ocean Strategy Success System. We're going to learn how to dominate our real estate market. And most of us listening today were independent brokerage owners. We may have a small boutique brokerage or be a mom and pop shop, or we might have a larger brokerage growing, getting more market share, but maybe we're stuck. We've hit a point where we really can't continue to grow. So instead of doing the same old thing and getting the same old results, we're going to do something different and get different results, better results, right? Welcome to your future. Your future is so bright, you have to wear shades. Actually, I see the boat on the horizon there. You're sailing out to the blue ocean. Today's quote is adapted from another quote. Well, there were actually several quotes from Einstein, and we put them together, and it says, if I had 1 hour to save the planet, I would spend 59 minutes identifying the problem and 1 minute solving it. So that really speaks to the planning and the preparation and the understanding what's deep inside the surface before you just rush about trying to figure out a solution. So much of what we explore today will be about that. It will be about looking at the market, exploring what's under the surface. Please check in, everybody. Let us know where you're joining us from so we can say hello. Today is innovation session number 6, and the topic is get the strategic sequence right. A little bit about me. As you already know, many of you already know me. And when I was earning my MBA degree, I found out about blue ocean strategy through one of my professors who's teaching an entrepreneurship class, Dr. Thomas Buckles. It was required reading. We also watched a video, which really opened my eyes. As a matter of fact, I was so intrigued, I watched the video 3 times. I took tons of notes, and then I started doing additional research. I got really excited about this topic of blue ocean strategy, and I thought this is really what our real estate business needs. So today's session, and actually our whole Be the Boss session, is directly a result from a Master of Business Administration program at Azusa Pacific University in California. And it's also based on Fortune 500 concepts. The authors of the book, Chan Kim and Renee Mauborgne, they're actually highly touted university professors and have spent years and years and years researching and developing this concept. And when I say research, it's not that they just decided, oh, we're going to come up with this, but they really did a lot of deep dive into this topic and did a lot of research and looked at businesses, spent a lot of time exploring businesses. So the concepts that we're learning, they're really based on solid business concepts, and they really work. There are many, many, many success stories. As a matter of fact, in our real estate industry, if you look around at some of those mega companies having massive success, you'll see that they are doing something new and innovative and different. And that's why they're succeeding, but it might strike fear in some of us because they're in unknown, uncharted territories. We're not familiar with those waters, and we're wondering if they're going to hurt or disrupt our business. Instead of worrying about them, we need to create our own blue ocean that we can sail out to. This is my certificate of completion from Blue Ocean Academy that authorizes me to teach this topic. Again, everything is copyrighted from Blue Ocean Strategy book. So today's presentation, we have 5 sections: the right strategic sequence, testing for exceptional utility, strategic pricing. We'll look at the 2 steps for that, target costing, and the last most important, of course, is adoption. So what is the right strategic sequence? As I mentioned, today we will have several diagrams. We're going to have actually 4 diagrams, and this is the first one. This is the sequence of the blue ocean strategy. And we're going to explore each of these in detail. But first, let's take a minute and look at the buyer utility. What does buyer utility mean? Well, in blue ocean terms, the buyer is the customer for your business. And many of us were in real estate, so when we hear the term buyer, we tend to think of a person buying a house. That is not the buyer this is referring to. This is referring to a customer. So we could actually replace the word buyer with customer. So customer utility. And what does utility mean? That's the usefulness or the value. Number 2 is the price. Number 3 is the cost. Lastly is the adoption. And if you can get all those right, you come up with a commercially viable blue ocean idea. If at any point along that sequence, you cannot answer the question with a yes, the answer is no, you're going to have to go back and rethink that step. And you don't proceed to the next step until you get the first step completed. All right, so the first one, buyer utility, or again, we can replace that with the word customer utility. Is there exceptional utility in your business idea? That means you're doing something different and innovative that customers want and need. Something that is not already fulfilled as a need in the current marketplace. If you are, go to the next step. If you're not, time to take a step back and rethink. This is the first step. Now, as you recall, we've been going through this in the previous weeks. In the previous weeks, reach beyond existing demand was one of our topics last week, focusing on the big picture. Before that, reconstructing market boundaries. And we talked about reconstructing market boundaries. Who are our non-customers? We also discussed that last week. Who are our non-customers that are not currently being reached by our competitors? Why not? And how can we offer something to bring them in? Next, we have price. Is your price easily accessible to the mass of clients? If it is, hooray, that's great. Go on to the next step, cost. If it's not, go back and rethink it. Now, what is price? Price is what you offer at a retail price to your customers, the price that they pay you or the fee they pay you to purchase your product or service. That's price. That is different than cost, right? Cost is what it costs you internally. So totally different. Cost is something that you need to attain that cost target to profit. You're looking at your strategic price and you're looking at what it costs you to get to that price. Now, the pricing and the costing, we'll be covering those later in this session. But we just need to get the sequence correct to know, is this doable at this cost? First of all, will customers buy it at that price? And if I'm charging XYZ price, can I reverse engineer it to make sure that the cost is in line with that price? And if I can, then I get to go to the next step, which is adoption. If not, then I have to go back and rethink the cost. And here's a little bit about the inner working of a real estate brokerage. This is our income statement. Let me turn on the whiteboard here. You know, up here at the very top, we have our profit, or should I say our gross revenue, our income. And then we subtract our cost of sales. Whoops, I did not draw a very good circle there. And then we come down here, we have our gross margin. And then we go to operating expenses, subtract those. Those are our fixed costs. And then we get to our net profit and our bottom line. Now, when we're pricing something out, we have to look at what the consumer will buy. And then we also have to look at covering our costs and making a profit. So our cost has two components. One is this one, our variable expenses, the cost of sales. In other words, what it costs us to produce that product and get it to the market. And then secondly is our fixed costs. That's our overhead operations. And that would be like our office expenses that we're going to incur regardless of whether we produce any products, we sell any services. That's just the minimum to maintain the office going every month. Right. So really, when we're looking at the cost, we want to the goal is to lower the variable expenses, the cost of sales, lower our operating expenses and fixed costs. And by doing that, you automatically raise your net profit and raise your gross margin. Of course, we always want our top line, right? This little guy up here, the gross revenue, we always want that to be higher, but that's not the only factor we need to look at. So it's important to look at all the components when you're pricing and make sure that you do your calculations. Now, those of us who have had advanced accounting, or we have a great accountant that can crunch the numbers for us, there are calculations that we can use. Today, we're not focused on the number crunching as much as we are looking at the big picture. And then once we get our product in place, our idea, then we're going to do the number crunching and see if it's viable. And if it's not, how can we minimize our expenses to maximize our profit? Is that possible at this price point? If not, then maybe we need to look at a different price point or go back and rethink the whole idea. So I hope that makes sense. So what is adoption? Oops. Okay. Adoption is the hurdles that might be actualizing your business idea, the hurdles involved that prevent you from actualizing your business idea and getting that adopted by your masses. So all of those hurdles, are you addressing them up front? Are you asking your buyers, or should we say customers, to adopt this product or service? And will they be excited and enthusiastic about what you offer enough to be able to do that? If so, we can go to the next step. And if not, we need to go back and think through the adoption process of why consumers are not adopting or would not adopt our product or service. And if you've gone through all four of those steps, the buyer utility, which is the usefulness and value to customers, the price, which is what the customers pay you, the cost, which is what it costs you behind the scenes to produce and provide that, and the adoption, which is your marketing and your buyer's demand is all there. If all four of those are in line, then congratulations. Woo! Yay! You have arrived at a commercially viable business idea with Blue Ocean strategy. If not, go back and rethink that sequence. So now that we know this sequence, now we're going to explore each of those a little bit more. So the first thing we're going to do is testing for exceptional utility. So this comes back to the first of those four components, which is buyer utility, or we call it customer usefulness and value. We're going to go through a buyer experience cycle, and in that we will uncover the roadblocks to the buyer utility. I will have for you something called a buyer utility map. The buyer utility map is a grid, and across the top, it has 6 stages of the buyer experience cycle, and on the side, it has 6 utility levers. So that makes a grid with 36 fields in it, and we'll go through each of those. Okay, so here's the buyer utility map. Take a moment to study it. I turned my webcam off so you could actually see the bottom right square, which was kind of hidden by the webcam overlap. We're going to go through each of these in detail next. But first, let's take a look at the top, right? The utility levers are purchase, delivery, use, supplements, maintenance, disposal. Actually, those are not the utility level levers. Those are the phases that your customer goes through. The first thing they do, and this is in order, the first thing they do is they'll purchase your product. Then they will get it delivered or pick it up. Then they will actually use the product. Then they might need some supplements in addition to the product. Then they will have to maintain it. And lastly, how do they dispose of the product? Now, those of us who have a service, we might not think of disposal so much, but there are definitely, you can work that in if you think about how the sequence works. So over on the left are the levers, which are customer productivity, simplicity, convenience, risk, fun and image, environmental friendliness. So these are all the things that your customers will be looking for in each of these 6 phases. So the first phase, the purchase. When your customer purchases something in the productivity square, how long does it take them to find the product they need? Is the place of purchase attractive and accessible? How rapidly can you make a purchase? How secure is the transaction environment? Let me turn the whiteboard on so you can see where I'm at on here. Right, so this is the first one. The second one, rapidly. How rapidly? That speaks to the convenience over here. How secure is a transaction environment? That speaks to the risk, right? This speaks to the simplicity. So each of these grids could possibly be filled in with something from your company. Let's look at delivery. The delivery is number 2, the second phase. Do buyers have to arrange delivery? How costly and difficult? Simplicity, how difficult is it to unpack and install? Convenience, how long does it take to get the product delivered? Okay, let's look at the use. Use is number 3. Does a product or service deliver more power or options than required by the average user, or is it overcharged with bells and whistles? Again, that speaks to the productivity, right? The bells and whistles. Does it have too many? How many of us have picked up a product and couldn't figure out how to use it because it's so complicated and it should be simple? Does a product require training or expert assistance? Is it easy to store when not in use? How effective are the product's features and functions? And that speaks to the fun and image. Okay, so I think you get the picture here. Same thing with supplements. Do you need other products to make it work? How much do they cost? How much time do they take? How much pain do they cause? Are they easy to obtain? The maintenance, does a product require external maintenance? How easy is it to maintain and upgrade the product? How costly? And disposal, does the product create waste? Items, is it easy to dispose? How costly is it? Are there legal or environmental issues in disposing of the product safely? So this is the grid to start you out in your company, your real estate brokerage business, to go through each phase to look at your customers. Now, again, who are your customers? They're not just home buyers. I know the word buyer is up there, but they're not home buyers per se. You have home buyers, or should we say property buyers, but you also have sellers. You have investors. You have corporate companies who might be your customers. Okay. All right, let's keep going here. Whiteboard off. So again, the stages of the buyer experience cycle are: first, your buyer purchases something, then they get it delivered or they take possession of it, then they actually use the product. Now, number 3, use of the product is where most companies focus on. They're only worried about the use of the product. As an example, in the real estate industry, We're all focused on that transaction, getting people to the transaction, closing the transaction, and we don't focus much on the other parts of it. And we're going to use a real estate buyer as we go through the next few slides. But after the use, during the use, they need some supplemental products. They need something to maintain it, and then they have disposal. And the environmental levers, those are customer productivity, simplicity, convenience, risk, fun and image, environmental friendliness. All of these are functions, or we call it utility levers, that your customers will be looking for in each of those areas. So let's go through a buyer utility map and look at somebody who is a home buyer, a residential purchaser at your company. So they come along to your real estate brokerage, and you have Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, and they say to you, we're ready to purchase our first home. Whoopee! Yay! Okay, our first home. Are there roadblocks in customer productivity? So that's square number 1 at the top. Purchase. How long does it take to find the product you need? And that sort of goes hand in hand with number 2, the simplicity. At which stage are the biggest roadblocks? So you have Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. You put them in the back of your car. You take them out and show them some houses. And they find a house they like. They write an offer. It doesn't get accepted. What happens next? Well, then you have to write an offer on another house and another house and another house. And after a while, they're thinking, wow, this is really difficult. This is inconvenient. So, and then they have to e-sign, and they have to wire their money in, and you tell them about wire fraud. So now we're at the risk. How secure is the transaction environment? Is there any fun and image in the process? Are there any roadblocks in environmental issues? Those are things that we don't often address or think about for our buyers, but how can you make it a fun, exciting experience where they don't feel risk, they feel it's convenient, simple, and very productive? Most of us are just focused on getting the document signed, getting the inspection, and closing escrow, right? Without focusing on the buyer experience. Now let's go to delivery, number 2, column number 2. In that column, our buyer is going to escrow, or in some states, we have the closing process with the closing attorney. So they figure out, wow, there's a lot of paperwork to sign. Oh my gosh, this home inspection is crazy. Now it makes me worried about the condition of our house. We're talking about risk. There's so many papers to sign. It takes so long, I don't understand them. We're talking about simplicity, convenience. And I'm not sure who I'm dealing with at the attorney's office or the closing agent's office. I'm really not sure about my documents being safe and secure, my money. And now again, we're talking about risk. So that's the delivery of the product. Also, when they get the keys, you meet them at the house. You have a big, nice welcome basket waiting, and they're so excited to get their keys, and you take a little video of them, right? So all of that could be fun and image. The next one is use. Now they moved in. Woohoo, they're excited. They start paying their mortgage, and that is the use. They're living in the house. Are there any things that need to be done while they're in the house? A lot of us don't think of that. Well, actually, I'd probably put house in number 5, maintenance, because there are things that need to be done as they maintain the home. But we as agents, we disconnect from them. We say, thank you for the transaction. I got my commission check. Bye-bye, see you later, I'm moving on down the road, transaction is completed, but yet our customer is still living in the house. Number 4, supplements. What other things do they need? Well, they probably need a home warranty. They probably need insurance. They need a mortgage loan, of course. So these are things that go hand in hand with what we offer. And without them, we can't do our job. But we often ignore them when we send buyers on their way. Go get an insurance quote. Here's your home warranty policy. And it's not part of the package. But for a buyer, those are really important things for a home buyer, right? Then we look at maintenance of the house. How easy is it to maintain and upgrade? How costly is it? What about making their payments on time? What about asset protection? Having a family living trust? Their continual bookkeeping and financial management of their household, and getting permits when they want to expand, putting a new roof on, and financial things like paying your taxes and tax deductions. All of those things are part of home ownership, and we simply ignore them as real estate sales brokerages. Okay, we're focused only on the transaction, and that's a huge area. It could be a huge area of concern for the buyers. The transaction lasts for, we'll say, 3 months, but they live in the house, 10 years. So the transaction part is what we're focused on. That's a very small part. And then last is a disposal. Now they're ready to sell it, get rid of it. They pass away. They have heirs and an estate. So what happens next? I hope that this review of the buyer utility map focused on a home buyer helped you put all of these concepts into perspective for the blue ocean strategy. But we're going to keep going because we're still going to talk about price, cost, and adoption. Okay, strategic pricing. Now we have another grid for you, or should we say an illustration. And our illustration has 2 steps to it. It's pricing. The goal is to identify the price quarter of the mass. What does that mean? That means what everybody else is doing, what all of your competitors are doing. We said we don't care about the competitors, but we really do. We need to know exactly where they are on the map. And once we find out where they're at and why, then we can specify our price level within that pricing quarter. So let's take a look at that. Okay, here's the diagram on my whiteboard here. On the diagram, there's the 2 steps. Identify the price quarter of the mass and specify a price level within that price quarter. So let's look at the left side here. Now this has alternative products and service types. There are 3 different types of competitors. Those that have the same form as you, a different form and the same function, a different form and function, but the same objective. So these are sort of some little lines. You can just look at, imagine some lines going through here. And within that, we have the tiers of upper level pricing, mid-level pricing, lower pricing, and each of these circles represents mass competitors. The size of the circle is proportional to the number of buyers that the product or service attracts. And we can see there's a big circle right here and another right here. Okay, so what does that mean? The same form, and we're going to look at that in just a minute. And I see we have a question here. Irene, the buyer utility is great to have a guide and a structured versus random thoughts and behaviors that are hit and miss. Definitely, for sure. And most of us as real estate brokerage owners, myself included, we might not have gone to business school when we opened our brokerage. We just said, hey, I got my broker's license. Woohoo! So that means I can hang my shingle and I can hire some agents and start selling houses. And we really don't take the time to go through these steps one at a time. So this going through each of these sessions with a Blue Ocean strategy helps us to think through the process instead of just continuing to do what we've always done in our business. Going back to this price corridor diagram, at the top here on the right, we have a high degree of legal and resource protection that is difficult to imitate. At the bottom, a low degree of legal and resource protection, and that is easy to imitate. And if our product is difficult to imitate, that means we're going to be in the upper level pricing. Why? Because it takes competitors a long time to catch up with us. Whereas if we have a low degree of legal and resource protection, we'll be in the lower level pricing. Why? Because our competitors are already there and we're going to be competing more on the pricing of our offering. And then, of course, there's the mid-level pricing, which is some degree of legal and resource protection. So let's look at some examples of companies that fit into these types of boxes here. Okay, if you have your book, I'll be on page 128. Identifying the price corridor. Oh, actually, before that, okay, same form and different price. So let's look at that. What does the same form mean? So the same form means that the company is offering the same product as you in the same type of format. Or you can offer it in this different format. Different form, but yet the same function. Okay, so what that means is a different form and the same function. So many companies that create Blue Ocean attract customers from other industries. They use a product or service that performs the same function or bears the same core utility, but it takes on a different physical form. So one of the examples that the authors use is the Ford Model T. Now, before Ford started his Model T, it was the car industry was, so most people didn't have cars. They had horse-drawn carriages. That was how the mass got around, most consumers. And some people started making cars. They made them from scratch. Every car was custom made. And every car was different. There was no uniformity and there were no standards. So say, for example, a family could get a horse-drawn carriage for $500. But to get a new car, it was $1,500, 3 times the cost, and the families just couldn't afford that. So Ford came out with his Model T and he did an assembly line. With his assembly line, every car was produced exactly the same to the same standards. There were standard pieces, standard parts, a standard assembly line. All the cars were in the same color. What that allowed him to do was to mass produce it and offer it to the masses. So instead of offering competing with the custom built cars at the $1,500 price level, he could now produce his assembly line car for $500, and he was not competing with custom cars. Now he was competing with the horse-drawn buggies. And now this is available to the masses because it is this different form, yet serves the same function. So if it still accomplishes the same result. People get from point A to point B, but now they're doing it in a different form or a different concept. Another example of that is Southwest Airlines. When they first came out, and they still do a lot of this today, they focused on short flights from hub to hub. And they weren't competing with major airlines who were going a long distance. They were competing for the customers who would have, instead of taking an airline, they would have driven in their car. Like, for example, maybe a 2 or a 4 hour drive, they would have gotten in their car and driven, but now instead they can go from point to point on an airplane for the same cost as driving in their car. So again, it's the same function for the customers. Okay, I see Carrie asking, what book is that? Okay, let me show you. It's our Blue Ocean Strategy book. Hopefully you can see my little webcam there. Blue Ocean Strategy. This is the original book. There is now a second book out called Blue Ocean Shift. But in this session, we are covering the 8 chapters of this book. And today we're at chapter 6 because we're in session number 6. Okay. And that is why we have so much innovation today. Woohoo! And thirdly, the alternative product or size is a different form and function, but the same objective. Okay, and Carrie, you said you just ordered the book, a 2005 print. I believe, yes, it is. You can also, there is a revised, updated version as well. This has been an international bestseller, over 1 million copies sold. So they do have an updated version. I think it's pretty similar. You can also order the book on Audible, which I have, and you can also order a Kindle version of it. I like ordering the Audible version and listening as I read the book. So it's great to have somebody else reading it for me. I can underline and things like that. So, okay, last on our list is different form and function, but the same objective. In other words, you're targeting those companies who accomplish the same thing as you, but they do it in a different manner. And a good example of that would be a movie theater. What do they offer? They offer people to go out and have fun, and they're actually competing with maybe a restaurant, a golf outing, other things that people do to have fun, but it's a different form and function, accomplishes for the consumer the same objective. Okay, upper level pricing. Upper level pricing is when your product has a high degree of level and resource protection and is difficult to imitate, so your competitors won't be copying you anytime soon, and that gives you the ability to be able to offer upper level pricing because your customers aren't going to be able to copy that very much. The next one is mid-level pricing. You have some degree of legal and resource protection. Your competitors may be copying you, but probably not anytime soon. And you can get out there and get a head start before they catch up to you. And the last one's a lower level pricing. If your product is easy to imitate, there's a low degree of legal and resource protection, you want to be in the lower level pricing. Now that we talked about pricing, let's talk about target costing. Now we said, normally in a business, when you're crunching your numbers, and you'll remember this from accounting, first you're going to look at how much the product or service costs you. Then once you know the cost, then you will set the pricing, and hopefully the market will agree with you and they will buy your product at that price. So for example, if it costs you $10 to make a widget, you might price your product at $20. However, in this blue ocean strategy, we're working backwards. We started with the price. What will customers pay? And what is my degree of flexibility based on what my competitors will charge and how easy it is for them to try to copy me after we start pricing. So we start with the price and then we work backwards to the cost. So again, our goal in any business venture is to maximize profit and profit potential. So we're going to start with a strategic price. This is the blue ocean strategy method. And then from that price, then we deduct the desired profit margin and arrive at the target cost. And then, of course, we do have to crunch our numbers with our accounting team and make sure that we're still profitable and hopefully a larger profit than before. So again, in the blue ocean strategy, we're doing price minus cost pricing, not cost plus pricing. So here is an example of the profit model of blue ocean strategy. I turn my whiteboard on here. We start with the strategic price. And then we go down to the target profit. And then we go to the target cost. Now, as I said, in most companies, it's going to be the opposite. You'd start with cost, and then you would add your profit on there, right? And then that would equal your price that you're going to charge the consumers. Okay? That's the traditional method. We're doing the opposite. We're starting at price, and then we're calculating our target profit, and then looking at the target cost. Now, once we've done all of those, if the cost does not make sense and we're not able to achieve profitability with our blue ocean strategy idea, then we have a couple other options open to us. One of those other options is streamlining and cost innovations. And another option is partnering. For example, partnering with a company that already offers that service, and instead of us doing all the parts and bearing all the costs, they're bearing the cost and we're just getting perhaps a referral fee, or we're an affiliate partner, or we do some type of other creative partnership. And by offering these two, that allows us to get to the pricing innovation. Okay. I know you're probably looking at this and thinking, how does this apply to real estate? And the whole point is today we're not focused just on real estate. We're focused on business concepts in general. We're thinking outside the box, and we're looking at the big picture of business. And once we understand those concepts, then we can start applying that to our real estate brokerage. So again, on pricing, the price minus pricing is essential, not cost plus pricing. And the key is for your service to be profitable and hard for potential followers to match. That is a huge area there that we need to focus on, is that if your competitors can match your price, then you really don't have anything proprietary. You're not going to be in business very long, because the big guys with more money, more capital, more resources will come in and wipe out your company just by copying your idea and matching your price. A couple of case studies that we have to think about today. One is a swatch watch. Now, what they did with the swatch is they had a creative concept. You can see there are different styles of watches here. When everybody was competing with the Rolex and the expensive watches, instead they decided to go the other way. They made something interesting and creative, and they priced it at $40. And why $40? That's kind of unusual for a watch that's could be competing with designer watches, but $40 was their price point that they reverse engineered because they understood that at that price point they wouldn't have many competitors for what they were doing. The competitors in the market were looking at higher price points, and they priced this just above their cost to manufacture, and they sold in mass quantities. So it prevented copycats from copying them for many years, and that's how they became a fashion fad or a trend that was quite profitable. And same thing with IKEA. Right? IKEA's business model is assemble your own furniture. Who else does that, right? Nobody does that. So IKEA has managed to capture their own blue market share and do something unique and unusual, and their price point supports it, because who else could do that for that price point? It would take quite a while to put the pieces together to copy their business and, at the price point they're asking. So again, those are two case studies of great companies to look towards. Pricing innovation. Again, the aim is not to compromise on strategic price, but to hit the target through the new price model. One example of that is the Hewlett-Packard startup. And what they do is, instead of giving their startup companies money, they give them Hewlett-Packard products, and in exchange for an equity interest in the customer's business. Now that's innovative, isn't it? Lastly, we have adoption. Adoption is how the customers receive our products, purchase them, use them, and bring them into their world. So adoption has several hurdles. One of those hurdles is employees. Our employees will be impacted by the new business concept. They will have concerns. Are their concerns adequately addressed? Do they feel this new business model is a threat to their job, their position, or just their way of working? And if so, those need to be addressed right up front, because you can't afford to be sabotaged by your employees. Or should we say your real estate agents? You need to have them on board with you and have everybody in the mindset of we're learning and we're growing together. We're developing a company, and have them on board with your vision. Same thing with your business partners. They can give you some pushback. There can be some resistance. So you need to openly discuss issues. One of the examples is SAP company, when they tried to launch their new ASAP product, and they really did not have the buy-in from their business partners, and that backfired. And it was very, a difficult business situation for them. And then lastly, we have the general public, who are going to be your customers. And just the perception in general, I think, of your product, they might see you as new and innovative, which is not necessarily good for the general public, because things that are new require change and a change of mindset, and everybody's not there with you. They may feel it threatens the established social or political norms. They may not be open to your ideas. So one thing that you need to make sure you do is to educate the public about what you offer, because what you're offering is new and different. It does require some education, and you need to control the conversation. Now, a case study here is from a company called Monsanto, and they make food products. What happened is they did not get in front of the conversation. They allowed the public to dictate their conversation, I guess you might say, about their image. And as a result, they got hammered big time by consumers who thought and probably still have a bad perception of their company and their food products. So it was really important. That was a big missed opportunity for them to not start with the education in their corner and be able to control the conversation and make sure that the public understands completely what you're doing and that it's a benefit for them. This is your own little blue ocean idea index. What you're going to do is you're going to take utility, price, cost, and adoption, which is a strategic sequence, and you're going to apply that to your company by filling in the blank. And then you're going to look to each of your 3 top competitors and fill in what they're doing and measure yourself and your company as compared to each competitor. That gives you an idea of whether you're offering utility or value, and do consumers have a compelling reason to buy your product, or do they have a compelling reason to buy competitor A product, competitor B, competitor C? And price, is your price easily accessible to the mass of consumers? Does your cost structure meet the target cost? And have you addressed adoption hurdles up front? So this is a good place to compare yourself with your competitors and see where you fall in that range. And if it doesn't work, don't be afraid to, ball up your paper, toss it in the trash, get a new paper, start all over, start your idea fresh. As a matter of fact, you probably will go through this process several times as you're creating your innovative blue ocean idea. It probably won't be your first idea that is the one that is your gold star that earns the medal because it's a phenomenal idea and it's a takeoff, runaway, massive success. You'll probably have to go through this formula and go through this process several times before you hit on the right idea. In conclusion, remember that no matter how smooth it seems you're sailing, there are hidden icebergs lurking below the surface. You thought you just got away from all those competitors in the red ocean, sailed out to your blue ocean, but remember there are obstacles along the way. So the goal is to find the right strategic sequence, test for utility, make sure your pricing is correct, and that your cost supports your price and maximum profitability. And lastly, adoption is key. Because if you have all those right and consumers don't adopt your idea, then what's the use, right? You have no company. Again, we are coming from Blue Ocean Strategy, the book. Make sure you get your copy. We're on chapter 6. Take time to go through it and think strategically. Work on your business, not in your business. And that is the key, is to set aside some time every week or preferably every day, maybe 30 minutes a day, where you can start working on your business instead of being busy working in your business. For today, we do have some goal achievers offers available to you and your team. And as you know, we also have custom covers. So if you want to promote your brand to your agents and your aspiring agents, this is a great recruiting tool, great retention tool. Get a planner with your brand on it, your company name, your logo, your colors, your theme, your inspirational tagline, or whatever it is, and make sure that each agent has a copy. So we can help you with that. You'll see the offer right there. And the second thing is our MasterClass. I hope everybody has already subscribed to our MasterClass. If not, get it today. We have a great offer for you. I'll go ahead and put that up. Our normal price for all 12 sessions is $590, But today we do have a half price discount for you of $295, and that's for the entire series of 12. Now, what is behind the scenes are the 12 courses. You get unlimited online access, 24/7, 365. You get activity worksheets, bonus content, and resources, all at 50% off today. And you can see the offer there. I want to talk really briefly about working on your business. Now, we have had many brokerage owners who purchased our MasterClass and have not gone through the series. Why is that? Well, there's a saying in business: what's easy to do is easy not to do. And that's not just a business saying, it's actually human nature, right? If it's easy to do, it's easy not to do. So maybe it's too easy. And if you have already purchased and invested in this, take the time to go through. Listen to the sessions, even if you just do an hour a week or twice a week. Take the time to do the worksheets. Make the commitment to grow your business, develop it, and keep working on your business, building your business empire. Any final closing thoughts or questions, anybody? As you know, we do offer consultations for real estate brokerage owners, aspiring brokers, and we help you discover new innovative markets as well as maximize profits or start your new brokerage. Our next session, when we finish the Blue Ocean sessions, our next session of series of sessions is going to be driving profits to the max. Real estate brokerages revving up and pushing the needle. I know everybody's excited about that because we are want to make sure that no matter what, we have that bottom line covered and it's growing, right? The bottom line being profit, net profit, not revenue. My contact info, feel free to reach out at any time. Irene says, take action, not just learn in a passive state. Woohoo! Right on with that, Irene. Now, I think there's sort of two types of people. There are the analytics who like to analyze till they're paralyzed. And then we have the action takers who jump out there, but they make tons of mistakes and don't make any forward progress because they're busy taking action. And I think we need to be somewhere in the middle. We need to learn, but we need to implement. We need to take time to think, but again, it requires action. So think, learn, digest the information, go out and take action, and then assess what you learned and go back and start the process all over again. It's a continual cycle, right, of learning and growing. And that's why you're here today, because you want to learn, you want to grow, and kudos to you. Great job, everybody, on accomplishing that goal. Again, this was the 5th session of Be the Boss and Dominate Your Market. Turn off the slide presentation. Actually, I think we were the 6th session, weren't we? I think I forgot to update that slide there. But I hope everybody had a great time, enjoyed this topic today. If you have any questions, this is chapter 6. If you have any questions, please reach out. I am here for you. And my goal is to help you work on your business, maximize your profit, and build a legacy so that you're around for a long time, that your business is successful. You help a lot of agents with their careers, that you help a lot of consumers and make a difference in our industry. And in our whole market, right? Irene says, very good, Regina. I learned a lot today. Thank you. You are welcome, Irene. Thank you for staying tuned. And everybody, we'll see you on the next session. Bye-bye.